do you think is something we said? They're all leaving.
Yes.
I'm Fiona. I'm a journalist with Resilience Media and with FOMO Observer. And I'm joined by Meeri, who's founder and CEO of INZMO. We're going to be talking today about hiring and the company culture. But first of all, is this your first TechChill, or are you a veteran here?
No, I have been around for several years because INZMO is already 7 years old. So I've been here every other year.
Okay, lucky you. This is my first TechChill, but the last 2 years I was meant to get here, and every time just before I either went to the bus or to the airport, something happened and I couldn't go. So I'm glad to be here, but last night I did have a moment while I was balancing a chair on a wobbly bed, and I was on top of the chair trying to sort a skylight in my room that I thought maybe that wasn't the wisest decision. But I made it down, and I'm here today, so I'm really glad to be here. And also, I feel a bit at home after following an Irish accent, so I don't feel too out of place at TechChill today. So we're here to talk about company culture. So your company is now 8 years old. And what I wanted to ask first is, was company culture something that you thought of and that you put in place from day one, or was it something that gradually came about with you?
Like in the first years, you don't think about the culture because all you think about is survival, actually. And the company culture sort of sorts itself out, and mostly based on the decisions you make in stressful situations. And I would really invite all the founders to be much more deliberate about their company culture, because if you don't deal with it and shape it deliberately, it will shape itself for you, and usually in ways that you don't like. So in that sense, yes, in the initial years, you are maybe not so aware of this, but over the years, I also started dealing with this more deliberately and understanding that we have to create the company culture, and it has to be transforming all the time, and you have to make progress there, because the company culture is created by, first of all, the decisions you make, and how you communicate, and also what you tolerate and what you don't.
Was there maybe a kind of turning point where you were like, okay, yeah, we need to concentrate on this?
When the team started growing, initially we were maybe like 4 or 5 people. The team was very small, but when you have 20 people, 35 people, and people working from different countries, they come from different cultures themselves. So, and in addition, some come from startups, some come from corporates. So you see that there is a massive mismatch in how we communicate and how we operate as an organization. And this is where you have to make some very deliberate decisions, like how I want the culture to be, and how the people we have right now will fit into this culture.
Is there a kind of way that you can describe what the culture is in your company?
Well, I think there are a few ground rules. First of all, the first ground rule is that we're not a family. A lot of companies want to describe themselves, but we are this one happy family, or we are this one family. No, we ain't, because in a family, you are fine if, somebody is disabled or the grandma is drinking, and you tolerate and you love them no matter what. But in a company, you cannot afford that, because I look at the company as like an Olympics team. Let's say this insurance space, and we want to win the Olympics of insurance. And do I have the best team possible to win the Olympics here? And this is, I think, how we look at the company. And the second thing is that we tolerate no bullshit. And this starts from me. It's the way how I have to communicate with my people, is that everything is transparent. Building a startup is hard. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this or hide things from you or make things easier for you so that people will stick around.
Yeah. I think also with the family thing that maybe when people started to lose their jobs, and then it's like, oh, actually, we're not such a family after all. Do you know what I mean? Because nobody fires their family as much as we might like to do it sometimes. Anyway, is there something that you do in your hiring process that kind of sorts the wheat from the chaff for your company culture?
Yeah, definitely. So we are not looking for people who 100% fit, because to me fit is also like you're looking to something that you're familiar with, or that it's the same, or it's the same pattern, or people behave in the same way. We're looking for somebody to create a change, and we are looking for people who lift others to a better level. Because if you have, let's say, a team of A-list players, and you're hiring somebody that is a B player or C player, then the A-list players are looking that, okay, this is what we tolerate now, and your A-list players become B-list players or C-list players, the worst case. And when we hire, we try to not so much look at your CV, but actually understand what you've done before, how you make decisions, and how you're behaving in an unstructured environment. And again, we are always being fully transparent what this work is about. I'm never trying to convince people to work in INZMO, because it will be hard, and they have to know this up front.
You also mentioned to me that your team gets involved kind of like later on when you've pretty much made a decision about somebody. How does that work?
I think it's important on both sides, because first of all, the team has to feel comfortable and see that, hey, this is the person we can communicate with. They seem to be having the right mindset and so on. And also the person who is the candidate, they will see that, okay, I saw the founder, but what the rest of the team looks like. So usually we use also 2-3 people in the final interviews so that they can get to meet the new hires.
Have you ever had an incident where they've met them and they're like, nah, they're not joining?
Not so far.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so, we wanted to talk about also moving from, say, corporate to startup. Have you had that situation? Do you think it's possible that people can move from a corporate environment to work in your startup? And what kind of tips do you have for anyone that's considering going from something nice and shiny to something that's just like dirty and get your hands dirty?
So in that sense, over the years of hiring, what I've seen is that a lot of people who have been in the corporates for, let's say, decades, they have this glamorous idea about what a startup is.
Really?
Yes.
What have they been reading? Not FOMO Observer?
Yeah, so that, it's all this, bright people with bright ideas, building something great and so on, which is also true.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand, that there is also a dirty side of it, which is that you have to roll up your sleeves every day and shovel shit, literally. And the biggest mismatch I see, and what I have seen in my hires, is that they are not ready for no structure. That you come, you're maybe leading a department or something, and there's no structure. You have to create the structure. And often also decisions are made with not 100% data, because we need to move fast. And all this kind of like, being unstructured and moving fast, and also your own job will change like quite rapidly and quite often, and there's no such thing that, oh, this is not my job. But you don't have to come tomorrow then. Then if there's no such thing as not my job in a startup, right? And this is a very like significant mismatch that we see when people from corporates are joining a startup. I'm not saying it's not possible, and it would be definitely a failure. It will require a very, very open-minded person ready for a mind shift.
Okay. Talking about mind shifts. So you have, when we were talking last week, referred to the superstar asshole. So I'm wondering, is there a place for a superstar, but kind of asshole-y type person in your team? And if so, how does that work?
So let me first maybe say what I think who is a superstar asshole. So these are people who individually perform extremely well, but in the team dynamics, they do not fit in a sense that either is the way they communicate, they bring tension, they may be being dismissive towards other, maybe they sometimes create toxic culture.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they might be really successful in what they're doing, but the team just doesn't want to work with them. So no, there is no way ever a place for superstar assholes in a company. And as soon as you see that, somebody is demonstrating toxic behavior, you have to let them go immediately, because this is a very fundamental cultural aspect that you're also communicating to your team, that what do we tolerate and what not. It's worse if your superstar asshole is a founder or a co-founder. In this case, you as a founder, you don't have often a choice, but as an employee, you have a choice, and you can leave, and you should leave.
Okay, actually, you've brought us nicely but funnily to the next question, which is about choosing your co-founder and when things don't go well. And I'm just going to caveat this with removing the asshole from the conversation, because when you started the company with your husband, so you were both co-founders, then the marriage broke down, you got divorced, and then the company, then you divorced out of the company as well. You remained, he left. It was amicable. This is why I'm saying we removed the word asshole from the conversation. Tell us, how was that experience for you, if you're happy to share?
Yeah, and I think my experience is, just because I was married to my co-founder, is no different than you have with your co-founders, even if you're not married. Because interestingly enough, 70% of startup co-founders split.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had this discussion with your co-founder so far, do it like right now. What are the ground rules when things get intense between us, if we get into conflict, if we don't have the same vision anymore, how we're going to solve this? Because we didn't have this in place.
You didn't have it in place at
No.
all? It wasn't a thought when you first started the company?
No, not really. I mean, our investors pushed some terms of separation in the shareholders agreement. Of course, in the case this should happen, but we were never thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
And we were thinking that, in the relationship, everything was fine, everything will turn out fine also at the workplace, and that was not the case in either of the fronts. So in that case, when the tensions start coming up and you don't have the ground rules set, how we're going to solve this, you don't have a protocol for this, the tensions between the founders are going to drag the company for a year, 2 years, or even more years. And what I noticed is that in this case, my team actually started to show some family dynamics. If the mother and father are fighting, the kids are fighting.
All right.
So this sort of translated also in my team. And in that sense, you have to define with your co-founders what the roles are specifically, and they're not overlapping. Where can we trust each other in ways that, you have some sort of a decision power over everyone else? And the third thing, of course, that what happens if we don't get along anymore, how we're going to solve this, so we have a protocol for this, so that the exit for everyone will be easier, right? So now I'm on my own. Of course, it's much more easier to steer the company and run the company, but I think because we didn't have this conversation up front, I think we lost at least a year because of that.
Okay. And how long was it, again, if we're getting too personal, tell us, but how long was it between the divorce and then him leaving the business? And whose initial choice was it then for that there's a split in the business?
So in that sense, I think we divorced 2 years into being an INZMO, and then 3 or 4 years after that, he left the company. So in that sense, we kept working together even after we divorced. But then at some point, I saw that he doesn't have so much joy towards insurance anymore and developing solutions for this, so he kind of wanted to pivot the company to something else, which we couldn't agree upon, and we saw that there was a mismatch, and we decided to split. And as my intention and our shareholders' intention was to continue doing insurance business, then it was quite obvious who will have to leave.
Yeah. If you could go back right to the very first day that you started the company then with your husband, and nobody ever wants to think of dooming a marriage, what exactly things would you have done differently on day one?
You have to have much more strict rules, in a sense that who does what, so that and there has to be trust between those co-founders that, I trust you to do, let's say, tech and product, you trust me to do fundraising and, I don't know, administrative stuff, and we trust each other, and we're not going to be poking around all the time and micromanaging each other all the time. So there has to be a certain level of trust, definitely, and I think that's the key here.
Do you think that maybe there was a sense in the team of a bit of a loss when your ex-husband left the company, or was that all ironed out beforehand?
Well,
how
the
would
thing
you manage
was that nobody left after that. So, and it's all about communication, because everybody saw the tensions were up. So everybody knew that something is coming, because, it has to be resolved some way. And that was the resolution. I immediately got together my team. I said, hey, this is the thing. This is how we're going to continue. And are you in or are you in?
Okay. Right, we only have a couple of minutes left. So what I wanted to ask you is, could you impart some kind of tips or wisdom for any founders in the audience who are about to maybe have their first hire or maybe start growing their team? Do you want to give some kind of culture tips for us?
Yeah. So in that sense, the first people that you hire are defining the future of the company even more than the strategy, because how the team dynamics and how the team will work together and how the culture will be shaped is very much on how the first hires will be. And hire people that are way more smarter than you. Don't aim to be like the smartest smartest person in the room, because then you've hired a wrong team. Then you've hired a bunch of B or C level players, but you want everybody to be smarter than you and actually deliver value that you cannot do alone.
One question I didn't ask you before we go is, when you have to get rid of the person who's not fitting in the team, how does that work out? How do you do it? Any tips on firing the superstar asshole?
Don't wait. Don't waste yours and everybody else's time, because if you see this coming up, then you cannot focus anymore on building the business. You have to start focusing on managing the emotions and the behavior in the company, which no founder or CEO should do. So get rid of them as fast as possible. Don't sugarcoat it. Give them honest feedback why this happened, because if they are smart, they will improve. If they're not, then this is not your problem anymore.
Okay. Right. I think that we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you. And thanks for being very honest about the co-founder split as well. It was really informative for anybody that has started a company with their other half. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.